I witnessed friends getting inspired to use social media to combat the fear of the immigrant. One instance in particular that stands out in my mind, it was when an art critic I knew, Sue Hubbard, posted on Facebook an image of the little boy washed up on the beach dead. She instantly got attacked for posting such a horrific sight. I felt compelled to defend her and commented that it was not the image that was horrendous, but the circumstances that led to it. Sue collected well over 250,000 signatures and went to 10 Downing Street to present them, but Theresa May, the then Home Secretary, did not listen. Then Sue went to Channel 5 News. By sheer coincidence, I knew the political editor there, and I texted him to tell him that I knew her. He replied that they had debated all day about broadcasting the image of the boy on the beach, as it was against the rules to show dead children. But they broke the rule, and almost overnight the tone of the government under David Cameron's leadership changed from one of propagating the fear to one of helping the situation. However, those early euphoric days are over, but at least the world is aware that there's a problem that can no longer be ignored.
Thank you, Margolis. And for those of you who might not have noticed, her paintings are displayed outside, so I would invite you to please appreciate her work. Our next speaker is going to be Mr. Margolis, and he is going to entertain us on homes and gardens of sanctuary.
Good evening, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here tonight on World Refugee Day, and thank you to all the organisers and to Dr. Law in particular. It's also part of World Refugee Week, and I'm very privileged, I think, to be giving a talk every night this week, mainly in my home city of Norwich. And I think it's a really important week to get the message out there that we're all trying to get out tonight. So I want to talk about sanctuary, and a little bit of the work that we've been doing around sanctuary, but also some of the amazing things that people all over the UK have been doing to create a culture of welcome and a culture of sanctuary for some of the asylum seekers who are trying to seek safety in our shores. My grandfather came to the UK as a refugee from Russia, actually from what's now the Ukraine, a small village called Peryaslav outside of Kiev. And he grew up destitute and homeless on the streets of London, in the East End of London, part of the big Jewish community that gathered there at the time. About 85 years later, under my persuasion, he wrote his memoirs, and we're really privileged to have his memoirs today as a record of his life. And what stood out to me when I was rereading them recently is those small acts of kindness that he remembered 85 years after they happened. The adult he'd never met before who bought him his first ice cream at the age of 5 years old. The man who was security on the public baths, because of course there was no private baths where they were staying, they were homeless, and when they did have a house there was no private bath there, and they had no money to go into the public baths. But the man who was security, and he would let them in secretly, him and his brothers, and allow them to have a bath. These are very small things at the time, but they stayed with him all those years later. And I think in some ways motivated myself and my wife as well to do what we do now. I did do something else. This was me in 2009, and you might remember there was quite a big climate change conference in Copenhagen that year. This is me with Ivo de Boer, the Executive Secretary of the UNFCCC. I felt a really strong compulsion in my life to do something, to change something, to make the world somehow a better place. And being quite fearful really of the impact that climate change was having, I had a real privilege to represent as the campaigns director the civil society organising around the UNFCCC process in the lead up to Copenhagen. Being extremely frustrated, like many people were after that conference, I left. But during that time, I'd met a lot of women in particular who were being forced to leave their homes due to the impacts of climate change. And we set up an organisation called Climate Wise Women, which still runs today, in which women from all over the world who are representing their communities who are affected by climate change have the opportunity to speak at the UN and elsewhere about the impact climate change is having on their lives. So some years later, my wife and I moved to this beautiful home in West Norfolk. It's called The Grange. It's an old rectory, it's a big house as you can see, and there's 10 acres of land that surround it. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I've got to say from the start, there was a lot of selfishness that went into this move. I don't want to come across as some wonderfully altruistic person. We had the real privilege to move here. It's a gorgeous space and we love living there. And we've lived there until very recently. But we knew we didn't want to move to this lovely small holding and to shut the gates in some way and pretend all is well in the world, because it's not. So we decided to create an open space for refugees and asylum seekers. And since 2011, we've hosted about 500 asylum seekers with us in our house. Our daughter was born in 2012, and she has grown up in this amazing space, sharing her home with people from all over the world. We have the great privilege of eating food cooked by Sudanese men, of playing music with Iranian women, of tending to our animals with men and women from all over, particularly Africa and Asia, and it's a complete joy. One of the greatest things about it, though, I think, has been the reception of people. We've heard a little bit tonight about how people perceive the outsider, the foreigner, the immigrant. We live in a small, rural Norfolk village. There's about 250 people in the village. And it's true that when I go into my neighbours' homes, I see newspapers on their tables which might bring some prejudice that I might have about them and their perception of the outsider. We have had nothing but support for the project we do. We have people in the village who volunteer, people who donate their time, donate their money, people who feed the animals when we're away. And there's something in the actual visibility, the actual going out there, seeing what's happening instead of a statistic and a headline in the newspaper, that I think very few people actually deep down hold that fear, hold that prejudice when they're confronted by it. So what do we do at the Grange? A few things that we do. We base what we do on the permaculture principles. I'm a permaculture teacher, and this is at the heart of everything we do. We care for people, we care for the earth, and we share our resources. And I think if we can hold these three ethics at the heart of all of our projects, then we've got a good starting point. This is an amazing man from Burundi, Michael. And I just want to play you a 30-second clip that he recorded for us recently. This is him holding our daughter when she was about 1 year old. It's just there in the little speaker sound thing. Yeah, play that.
To me, it's more like a rehabilitation center. Mm-hmm. I've been thinking of how much I can. To me, it's more like a rehabilitation center. Mm-hmm. I've been thinking of how much I can call this, but it has rehabilitated me in a way. It's like last night's dinner it reminded me so much of my family time. We had a joke, to be real me. And it was amazing to see different people from different nationalities, different ethnic backgrounds being together, being peaceful. That even when we live together, that we can cross ideas, we can respect each other. It is still possible that despite your background, you can still live as a family, despite our differences, despite color, religion. It's no landmark as we think. And to me, the place has really helped me in a way that I'm being trusted. Because I come from an ethnic background where people are fighting each other, Hutu and Tutsi, there's a lot of hatred. So I feel not trusted, not loved. So in this sense where you feel you're loved, it's like a payback in my time.
The first time Michael came to stay with us, he stayed for a week. He's supported by a wonderful organisation called Room to Heal. They're based in London. He was very visibly traumatised, and he found it very difficult both to arrive but more actually to leave when he had to leave. At the time he was destitute in London. He's since been to stay with us several times, and Michael now is well known by everyone in the village, and they love him, and he feels very well supported and held in that space. And that's what we try to get across really. Whoever comes through the doors of the Grange is part of the family. That's the ethos of the Grange. Anyone who visits becomes part of the family for the time they're there. Some of the visitors we've had over the last few years. We started recently to run a volunteer group on a Wednesday, with expectations of having 2 or 3 people every Wednesday to help in the garden. It's grown and grown until we often have 20 or 30 people coming to every Wednesday. Some of these are people seeking asylum in the nearby city of Norwich, and they now have become very good friends with a lot of the local people who come and help. And they're not asylum seekers when they come, they're volunteers like everyone else. Everyone cooks together, shares together, learns together. I'm frequently told off for my gardening techniques. I learn new gardening techniques from all around the world. We run pottery courses. Briefly, the lady whose hands are here, I don't want to mention her name, but she's from Mauritius, and she was trafficked here into domestic slavery. She was extremely traumatised, again, the first time she came to the Grange, and we then, one time when she visited, she asked if she could have a go at pottery. And we had a friend staying who was a very good potter. And he said for years he's taught pottery, and he's never seen anyone so naturally take to throwing a pot on a wheel. And as she was doing it, she remembered a time as a child when she helped her father throw pots on his wheel. And this was a memory that she'd suppressed, as she'd suppressed all memories of her childhood. And it enabled the therapist working with her to start to bring up more positive memories of childhood, which I think was really important for her therapeutic work. We do a lot of weaving and tapestry work. Cooking and baking is a huge part of daily life at the Grange. We make structures